pleasure to have you on the show, Tara. This
Thank you,
show,
Amy.
it's called Dope Nostalgia. So we talk to a lot of artists that were primarily big hits in the 90s, and then we want to know what they're doing now. So I do have a series of questions to ask you too about those days where you were first coming out with your album. And how did you get started and signed to Giant Records?
So initially, I was signed to Big Beat Records in New York. So they had their big hit was Jomanda. Remember that song? Hey, Mr. DJ, playing my song. Right, like to body rock all night long. You remember that song?
Yes, that sounds familiar.
So what happened was I did the song. It was a little independent record. I sang on somebody else's record. And then the record went to DJ Pool for KMEL. And it made its way to Hosh Gorelli, who is the music director for KMEL. And he played it on his show, Pick to Click. And it got an overwhelmingly positive response. And so then he started calling his friends at labels and stuff like that. And that's how we ended up with Craig Kalman at Big Beat Records in New York for the single. And then the single was leaked out, and we ended up being in a bidding war between Atlantic Records and Giant Records. So we ended up on Giant, and then Craig and Craig Kalman and Big Beat Records signed to Atlantic. And so Craig Kalman retained the rights to Hold You Tight, which was the single. So he worked that 12-inch. And then the rest of it went to Giant. But I was actually on Big Beat, Giant, Atlantic, and Reprise.
So did Giant
at the same time? I was on 4 labels.
Okay, so what happened when Giant Records folded then? At that point, that was later on. Like I'm just kind of skipping ahead when I say that, but did that get absorbed by like Atlantic, or how did that work?
I don't know, because I left the label before that happened.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure.
Gotcha.
How it ended up folding, but there were some problems with the label. There were they didn't really have a marketing team or department. It was a very young, new label. Yes. So when I came to Giant Records, they were still a new label, and they hadn't had any hit records at that point. So they were looking for a hit, and so that's why they were so hot to get Hold You Tight, because it was already. Everybody knew it was going to be a hit already at that time before I was signed to any major label. So, because it was getting radio play and it was getting written up. There was a magazine at that time, music magazine called Hitmakers.
Yeah.
And it was getting written up in Hitmakers a lot. And so it was just a hot record. That's what they were looking for, as a hit record to set up their radio promotion department. So basically, I went around and did a bunch of promotion for Giant Records, and then after that, Color Me Bad came out, and I think Jade was on that label as well. Mickey Howard was on the label. Who else was on that label? Those are the main ones I remember when I was there.
Yeah.
And then when I got to the second album, to record the second album, I got moved from, initially I was working with an A&R guy named Wendell Green, great guy. And then they moved me to work with Cassandra Mills, who was the A&R person that worked with Color Me Bad. And it didn't go well with her. So I tried to move to just make a lateral move to Atlantic Records, where Craig was, because Craig, the great thing about Craig Kalman, and who is now the CEO of Atlantic Records, by the way. But the cool thing about Craig is that Craig was a DJ, really great DJ, and a real music aficionado. He had a huge record collection in his place, and I think it's probably 10 times bigger now. Yeah. But he really understood music. He knew what was happening, what was up and coming in music. And so I really I had always wanted to stay with Craig from the beginning. I didn't really want to go to Giant. I wanted to stay with Craig and go to Atlantic with him. But the other people that were involved in my in my contract, I was signed to a production company, and one of the team members of the production company, his uncle was Howard Weitzman, who's a really big music, not really music industry attorney. He's entertainment attorney, but he also is a criminal defense attorney. He's famous for the DeLorean case. He was also O.J. Simpson's original attorney.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So he was really good friends with I'm sorry, really good friends with Irving Azoff.
Mm.
And sorry, wait a second. I have hair in my eye. So Howard Weissman was good friends with Irving Azoff and found out about this record and that his nephew was involved in it. And so he called Jake up and basically said, I'm going to be your attorney. You need me to help you navigate this stuff. And basically what he did was sold us down the river to Irving Azoff. So really would have been better strategically and in every way for us to have gone with Atlantic.
Yeah.
I think when we first had the independent, the record was out that had Hold You Tight on it. It had 2 songs on it. Hold You Tight was actually the B side, and the A side never made it to a record. But when Camille had Hoshgrelli had called all these people, and the 2 people that came to try to sign the initial 12-inch was Big Beat Records and Atlantic Records. So, they had shown interest from the beginning. They're an established label. I mean, Aretha Franklin, come on, who doesn't want to be on Atlantic Records, right? As a singer, that's where you really want to go. So, but we were, I was young and naive. And so we were manipulated into that deal with Irving at Giant Records. And so that's how I ended up there and on like 4 different labels at one time.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine like you're new artist, you're ready to put out an album and do your thing, but all of that background stuff going on with the label would be a little bit overwhelming at the time, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's just a lot of drama, a lot of politics. It's the music business is a crazy business.
Yeah.
And it's part of it's about money, but part of it's also about power. And so I really was a product. I wasn't really Giant didn't look at me as an artist really, or treat me like an artist. They treated me like what they needed to set up their label. So I wasn't really nurtured there as an artist. I wasn't promoted. When I say they didn't really have a marketing team, when I went and did my interview at BET with Donnie Simpson, he didn't even know I had an album out.
Yeah. That's
odd. That's odd, right? And then that was their big, well, you didn't sell that many albums. Like, well, I had 2 top 10 singles. So if I didn't sell albums, maybe you should have marketed it,
No kidding.
Maybe if someone knew I had an album out, they'd have bought it. But mainly it was, there's a lot of things they wanted me to do that I wasn't comfortable with. And I had actually had a meeting with Doug Morris, who was the CEO of Atlantic Records at that time. And it was like probably the best music industry meeting I'd ever had. He was the most positive and encouraging music business executive I'd met at that point. I had a great meeting with him. He basically was like, yes, we want you at Atlantic. Welcome to the family, all of that stuff. And we thought it was a done deal. And then Irving changed his mind and wouldn't let me go. So I requested to be released from my contract, expecting that I would then be able to sign to Atlantic. But that was not the case. So after I left Giant Records, Atlantic wouldn't sign me. I couldn't get signed to any other label. I was still signed to a production deal with my producers. So they put out an independent record, but they weren't able to get any distribution. So I was basically shut out of the industry.
And do you still have a bunch of music that's like there that you can eventually release, or like
I
is it
have a
still
lot
being
of
held?
music.
Is it still being held, or like do you have
No,
the
no, I
ability to
have
do
all
that
my
now?
music. I actually have a bunch of session recordings from that era for
Hmm.
my second album, all the demos. So, which I am planning to release next year. Next year, is my 30th anniversary
Okay.
for Hold You Tight and Piece of My Heart.
Fantastic.
So I am actually re-recording those two songs, remastering them. Uh, and so I'll be putting out a special edition for my 30th anniversary. And I'm also planning to put out the my demos from the second album.
Wonderful.
So it's all, they're not perfect. They're not like finished product,
Hmm.
but for the fans that are there, and I have really great fans that have stuck by me for 30 years
Yes.
with basically getting nothing from me. So anyway, I want to give back to them and let them have, they've all been requesting new music. So the first thing I'll be doing is dropping this and the old vintage material. But I've been making music all the time. I have, just because I left the business doesn't mean I left music. Music is part of me. So
Exactly.
I write all the time. I work with other musicians all the time. I've been on other people's records. I put out a couple of records myself. Um, but yeah, I have a lot of music to put out. I just haven't been in a position to be able to do it until now.
Good. Good. I'm glad that this is happening. It's going to be so exciting
It's
to hear
gonna
it.
finally happen. I can't even believe it myself.
I've when I remember buying your album, just being so excited about it because I liked every track. Like I didn't feel like it was an
Wow,
album that had filler on it. And I would say that like
thank you.
my favorite track would have been The Way You Make Me Feel.
Oh, cool.
I really like that one. It had like a
So that's
rockier edge to it.
I love that song too. So that track, I have a really cool story to tell you about that track.
Yeah.
So The Way You Make Me Feel was written by a friend of mine, Jennifer Jones, who's now in Nashville and has a band called The Willies, if y'all are interested. Um, but she got those tracks from Tone Capone. Do you know who
Mm.
Tone Capone is?
No.
I got five on it. You know that song, I
Oh,
got five on
yes.
it? That's Tone
Yes.
Capone.
Got
Okay,
it.
he's the producer for that. So he actually wrote the original tracks for that song. So indirectly, he was kind of a part of that record, which was cool. Tone and I didn't know each other at that time, but we were part of kind of the same circle of people. Like we
Mhm.
knew a lot of the same people and everything. But we recently, I worked with him on a Scarface record, and so we got to meet and connect, and so it was really cool. It was like, you're my long lost cousin I never met before, you know what I mean? Like part of the same musical family or area.
That's your favorite track on that album.
I think I liked The Way You Make Me Feel too.
Mhm.
I liked Monday Love. Monday Love was a really fun one.
It totally
That would have
was.
been fun to release. Um, I don't know. I like the whole idea for me with doing the album is that I didn't want it to, even though the first two singles sounded very similar to each other, I don't want the rest of the album to sound like the same song over and over again. I
No.
wanted it to have like, listen, like as if you were listening to the radio. You're getting a little bit of variety, still all like kind of R&B dance vibe,
Yeah.
but um but mix it up a little bit so it wasn't monotonous, because it's one of the things that I don't like if I'm listening to an album, if it just like sounds like the same after the same after the same, I get bored,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So
No.
I'm glad people liked it.
Oh yeah. No, that one seemed to have like more, I think there was more guitar in it or something. Like there was something that was a little edgier about that tune. And I
Yeah,
really was drawn to.
it had that little bit of rock edge to it.
Who was the
Exactly.
rapper on Piece of My Heart?
On Piece of My Heart, that was Jake Smith, One Take
Yeah.
Jake. He was one of the producers, yeah, that did the rap. He was a local rapper here before we had our record deal.
How much sampling was involved in the album? Because there's Be My Lover. I swear I hear Flava Flav going
There's
like,
a lot.
come on.
And I'm not, didn't produce the record, so I don't know what all they were, but boy, there was a lot of licensing going on for the sampling.
Everybody was
And
then. Everybody was sampling
everybody was
everybody.
sampling and tons of sampling.
Mhm.
And I actually had a little beef with my producers about the Lynn Collins sample and Hold You Tight, because I'm like, why are we sampling? Why don't I just sing it? Okay, people weren't doing that at that time. They weren't. Now, instead of using a sample and paying somebody any kind of licensing to use that sample, now people just recreate it, right? They re-record it, so it sounds the same. That's what they do. So anyway, that's what I wanted to do. I'm like, why is there another singer on my record? I understand it's Lynn Collins and that's super cool, but you know what I mean? Like, why are we paying for that?
And there's half the audience would recognize the sample and half the audience would just think that was you anyway.
A lot of people think it's me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think it's me on other people's records. That sample on other people's records, people think that's me, right? I've had a lot of people like, they sampled you on all these different records. Like, no, that's not me. That's Lynn Collins, who's amazing.
Yeah, everybody was doing it. And I'm going to say 12, 13, around that age at the time when all this was going on. So many things like that sample, other samples, I always thought that was all original stuff. I didn't find out till later, like Pastime Paradise by Stevie Wonder. I had no idea it was Gangster's Paradise.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So yeah, that was
there was a big sampling. That it was just what was happening at the time. It was all about this kind of hearkening back to other records and paying homage to these other records and incorporating them into new music. And that was really what was happening at that time. It still happens, but like I said, people usually re-record it now. They don't put samples that much in anymore that are real samples.
And the record label money isn't really there to do all that kind of stuff anymore either, right? So good, more indie artists doing it on their own, which is nice.
Well, that's the exciting thing, is that, when my record was out, we didn't have this social media thing happening. We didn't have direct access to our fans. The fans would write letters to the label, and then I would get a sack of mail, 3 months later or 4 months later after they got it. So it wasn't a very efficient system for connecting with your fans.
Yeah.
But now that we have this, and I'm still trying to figure it out. As you can see, I'm like trying to figure out how to do a Zoom meeting, but it is really exciting. It's been really fun for me to get to meet some of my fans and actually have conversations with them, get to know them, and it's really fun. It's neat. You feel very separate. I felt very isolated from my fans before.
Yeah.
But
now there's an ongoing connection there. And
yeah, there's a conversation. We're in conversation with each other now. And you know what I'm saying?
And you still control that connection on your end too, because you can choose whether, okay, I don't want to, or this person might be taking it a little weird. I don't know, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah. For the most part, my fans are really cool.
That's good. That's good.
They're really kind and very supportive people.
Yeah.
And so it's cool. It's really fun.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you're getting the chance to really embrace that. Who were you touring with back in the day, and where in the world did you get to go visit that left an impact on you?
I think the most significant touring that I did was the Club MTV tour, which was the summer of 1991. And so that was me, Color Me Bad, Gerardo,
yeah,
CNC Music Factory, Tony, and Belle Biv DeVoe.
That's a huge bill.
It was so much fun. It was like adults in summer camp tour, It was all summer long. We did a full shed tour. We got to go to every amusement park in the country, in Canada, probably,
Mhm.
um, and rode every roller coaster, which was super fun. We got to, they escorted us to the front of the line to get on the roller coasters and stuff like that. So it was pretty fun. If you're into roller coasters, if you're
Oh,
not, sorry,
yeah.
but I love roller coasters. So it was really fun for me. But we had a great time. We still talk about it. Uh, Tony. I met those. We're from the same area, right? So we're from the Bay Area
Mhm.
music scene, Oakland, Berkeley kind of music scene. And so I met them when it must have been, I think it was in 85. It must have been in 85. Yeah. So at the time I was singing backup for Rosie Gaines. Do you know who she is?
I've heard the name.
So Rosie Gaines, you would remember her um, from the New Power Generation. So
Ah, Prince.
remember the song Diamonds and Pearls
Yeah.
and Get Off, all that stuff. That's Rosie.
Oh, she's amazing.
She's
Okay.
amazing. So that was my first gig, was singing backup with Rosie Gaines, and I sang with her for 3.5 years, supporting her first album called Caring.
Mm,
So for any of you who are interested in checking that out, go check it out.
mm.
The Caring album from 1985. And so we were at the Dock of the Bay in Oakland doing, I think it was her record release. I'd already been working with her for a while, but it was like, I think that was the big release party. And everybody who was everybody in town came to the event. She was a big deal in the area, you know. So like Narda Michael Walden was there. I met Randy Jackson at that event, and his wife Liz. I met Dwayne and Raphael and Tim from
Mm.
Tony. That was my first time meeting them. A bunch of other people in the business here from locally from here. So and I met Don Cornelius, who was remember Soul Train, Don Cornelius.
Yes.
He was Rosie's manager at the time.
Wow.
So it was very interesting introduction. But anyway, so I knew them before their record came out. So their record came out shortly after that event and became a big hit. Hey Little Walter, right? That was the first one. So getting to go into, and we saw each other a lot when you're working a record or you have a hit record, everybody else that has hit records are also touring and promoting. So there's tons of shows going on. Radio stations are throwing shows. There's all kinds of events.
Mm.
And so you come in contact with the same people over and over and over, right?
Yep.
I did a lot of gigs with Father MC. I did gigs with Kathy Dennis. I did gigs with
That would
Marky
be a
Mark.
cool that'd be a cool pairing, Kathy Dennis. Hey?
Mm-hmm.
That would be
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
I think Rick Astley, I did a gig with him.
Mhm.
I did a gig with Huey Lewis and the News, which was
Nice.
cool. They're from the Bay Area too. They were really nice. But anyway, so it was always cool to see the guys, to the Tonys, because it was like, oh my God, yay, somebody from home, you know?
Mhm.
When you're on the road, it's like, it's very comforting to have people that you know
Yeah.
from like before all this stuff happened. So when we got to go on tour together, it was really, really fun. It was just, the whole band is from here. We had a great time. We really had a great time. So we still talk about it to this day. It's like, oh my God, remember that? Remember when yes, I
That's
remember.
amazing. Did you, get to, like, travel and do any touring in Europe or Japan or anywhere
I went to
international?
Japan. I went to Trinidad. Trinidad was super fun. I performed with White Snake in Trinidad.
Wow, cool.
I had a great time there. The people there are super warm and
Mm,
friendly,
mhm,
and it's not like, you go to other places and you check into the hotel, you're under an alias, it's all about like security and don't let anybody talk to you.
mhm.
When I was staying in Trinidad, people were calling my hotel room. Oh, hey, you want to come down and eat some, some food with us, whatever. Anyway, very
Nice.
warm, very friendly. It was there wasn't any of that kind of separation, you know, between, oh, you're a celebrity and we're, you know, it was all just very inclusive and
Yeah.
welcoming. And so that was super fun. I performed in Europe. I did kind of, after I left, I did a lot of performing in Asia
Mhm.
after I left the business
Mhm.
and stopped recording. Yeah, I did some touring in Asia, Guam and Bali, uh, the Philippines.
Did you get a chance to see the sights and, actually explore the country a bit?
Oh yeah, yeah. So
That's
I'm very
nice.
fascinated by that part of the world, and so that was really fun for me. I got to really actually lived there for a while. Lived on Guam
Oh,
for
yeah.
about 6 months, and then would go to different islands and places and sing. It was fun. It was
Gu
interesting.
Is Guam basically like an American base?
It is not really a base so much
Yeah.
anymore, but it is a territory. So it's
Right.
like Puerto Rico, right? They say
Okay.
it's where America starts its day. Right? There's 17 hours ahead of us.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's pretty huge.
Yeah,
Who
I
did you
think it's
get
17.
to meet, in the music industry that was big influence to you that excited you the most to meet?
Well, I got to meet Tina Marie, which was really fun. I
Mhm.
did an event with her. It was Cheryl Lee Roth put together this Diva Simply Singing, and it was to raise money for AIDS.
Nice.
I think it was actually specifically for kids with AIDS. I'm not really sure. I don't recall
Mhm.
anymore. But that was a really cool event because it was all females, right? So Tisha Campbell was there. I get to meet her.
Mhm.
She's lovely. She's really cool, very down to earth. Who else I met? Tata Vega was there. You would know Tata. She was the voice, the singing voice on The Color Purple. I remember, sister,
Mm,
you've been on my mind. Right? That's
gotcha.
that's Tata Vega. Gosh, I can't even remember who else was there, but it was a lot of people. But it was really fun to meet Tina Marie, and she was very supportive and kind and down to earth. So that was very exciting. I got to meet Janet Jackson. We had the
Oh,
same
wow.
choreographer, so I got to actually hang out with her and meet her, and that was really fun.
Mhm.
And she's also lovely and very down to earth. Um, and then I met some other people, but briefly. Like
Yeah.
I met Madonna briefly. It was
Mhm.
a hello and goodbye. You know what I mean? I didn't get to chat or anything like that. I've met Prince a couple times. Again, never chatted or any of that kind
Mhm.
of thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I met Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Uh huh.
She was still new. She
She
was
was
new.
new. She
That's right.
was new. And yeah, still had kind of like deer in the headlights, kind of look in her eyes like, oh my God, what is
Yeah.
happening to my life right now? You could just tell it was like
Right?
we were both kind of like overwhelmed with everything.
Mhm.
But she was, she was huge already, getting to be huge. But I really admired her. I thought she was still think she's incredible talent, you know.
And I know back in the day, her career, pretty much from what I remember, her first television appearance was on Arsenio Hall. Now, which, television appearances do you have that were most memorable to you?
My most memorable television appearance was on the Oprah Winfrey Show because I'm a huge Oprah Winfrey fan.
That's
So that
pretty
was
big. That's
probably the biggest. I didn't really get to talk to her. I mean, I talked to her briefly. I just thanked her for being her and doing what she's doing.
Mhm.
And I think we all took a picture with her or something at the end. That was like the only time I actually spoke with her. She just introduced me and I performed. It was to promote the Club MTV tour.
Mhm.
So we had all of us there performing, but I didn't have any interaction with her. I think that was it Gerard? Somebody like taught her how to do some type of dance thing. I don't know. I don't have the tape of it anymore.
Doing the whole
Be
Rico
fun to look,
Suave thing.
something like that. It was
Yeah,
probably Rico's. It was probably him.
yeah.
I don't know.
Now, tell us about the charity single Paris in Spring that came out.
So Paris in Spring, I'll tell you a little bit about the history of Paris in Spring. So that is one of the songs that was from my second album that
Mhm.
never came out. Um, and Dwayne Wiggins from Tony, who sang on that record with me, the
Mhm.
benefit record, always really liked that song. I mean, from back in the day. And then when I ended up not putting out a second album, he asked to use it with another artist, and he did. So it's been actually recorded with a couple different artists. Um, but when the attack happened at the Bataclan, and it was a American band that was playing from Palm Springs, right? It was just it really affected me. This was before these kinds of things were like a regular occurrence, right? Now
Yeah,
it's like, oh, that's what happens all the time, right? There's
yeah,
terrorist events all the time. People are getting killed all the time.
yeah.
I think we've become quite desensitized at this point, but it's not normal. And to kill these innocent people who are just going out, just music lovers. I mean, it tore my heart apart. So
Mhm.
the only thing I could think of to do is I have this song, Paris in Spring. Maybe I can use that and try to raise some money and raise some awareness. I did a video showing the photos that I was able to get a hold of some of the victims from the
Mhm.
attack. You can see just all these beautiful young people whose lives are just cut short, and all their families and loved ones who had to live without them from then on. I, I, um, I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in violence.
Mhm.
Um, so anything that I can do to stand up for victims of violence, that I would try to do that when I can, you know.
Thank you for doing that. Like, it's good to see, when, you utilize what you have available to make a difference. And yeah, I think it was a beautiful thing. I know
Thank you.
I was gonna be all light and fluffy, and then I'm like, "Oh, sorry.
It's like it's so sad. No, but
Whoops."
you know what? The fun thing about that, here's the fun thing,
Mhm.
um, is that I had a lot of great friends who volunteered to work on that record.
Mm.
So it was a really positive experience doing it. It was the first time I've ever produced my own record.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
thank you. So that was really cool. And I was um, one of the other writers does the percussion on that record, John Bendick. He's a
Mhm.
phenomenal writer. I love working with him. And he wrote a couple other songs on the second album too that you guys will be hearing. So he's an amazing writer.
Exciting.
Yes. So he was on there, and Troy Lampkin is a bass player, and Jubu Smith, and Dwayne played on the record. It was fun.
I can't wait to hear all the new music. Ah, so excited.
Thank you. I'm excited. I hope it's well received. I really just want, for me, that it's kind of like closure. Like I want, as a musician, this is a hard thing about not releasing music is, as a musician, as a songwriter, this stuff just comes to you, right? The music just kind of comes to you. And then
Yeah.
you kind of have this feeling of like, it's your job. Like these are messages that are coming to you, your job is to put out into the world, right? To share it with people.
Mhm.
So that's the very frustrating thing about not being in a position to be able to put any music out, because you feel like you're falling down on your job. You know what I mean? It's like
Well,
this is not part of the contract.
it's like you're trying to release that it's like a therapeutic feeling writing and try to get that out into the world, but it's like, "Hey, I can't get it out there," right?
Yeah, it's almost like being, tongue tied
Yeah.
and not being able to speak. So I'm excited, and I also want, I want to share with my fans what was happening at that time. The music that I was working on, that I was passionate about, that I wanted to come out, and Giant wasn't feeling it. They didn't want me to do that. Cassandra wanted me to work with Howie T and make a new Jack Swing record, like Color Me Bad, and that was just not going to work for me. It's very hard work, the music business, working or being out on tour, and not so much the Club MTV tour where we had buses and we were going across, that you basically ace.
I only have a few more questions. It's okay. I don't want to take too much of your time.
It's okay. So when you're, on the tour, it's cool because you have buses and you have hotels, and it's, you can sleep on the bus, and it's not that hard. When you're doing promotional tours and going to radio stations and doing shows, you are in a different city every single day. The first thing you do, so you get up at like 4 a.m., get to the radio station, or get to the airport, get on a plane, go to your next city, get picked up by the people from the radio station that you're there promoting. And they take you to the station, you do drops, and you do an interview on the station. Then you go to lunch with those people. Then you go to the venue and you do a sound check at the venue. Then you get to your hotel room and you get to rest and get yourself ready to go have dinner with the radio people. And then do a meet and greet and do a performance, and then hang out and go to bed, get 4 hours of sleep, and get on a plane and do the same thing the next day. It's a lot of work. It's hard. It's not like glamorous. It's a hard job. It's not an easy job.
Yep.
So it's not the kind of thing you want to do unless you really love it, love what you're doing, and love the music that you're doing, and feel good about everything that you're doing. So I wasn't willing to do music that I wasn't into, and I wasn't getting paid. I didn't get paid by the label. I got $15,000 advance money from the label. I never got another dime from them.
That's not a lot.
So no, that's not a lot. And I worked hard. So it doesn't give you a lot of incentive. Like, okay, I'm not going to pay you. You can't do the music you want to do. And we want to package you like a tramp.
Selling sex instead of music.
Sex and violence. Yeah. Cassandra Mills actually literally word for word. This was the breaking point for me with Giant Records. And actually, I really liked Irving. And I really liked the team, the radio team. They were all great. But Cassandra Mills said to me, to my face, I see you wearing a black lace teddy, carrying an Uzi, and acting like a black girl from the ghetto. Like, my dad's an orthodontist, right? Like, what do I know about pretending to be a black girl from the ghetto, and why? Why? Is that not insulting? Not to me, but I mean to my fans or to anybody. Like, why would you do that? It just seemed weird. And they knew that I was a pacifist. They knew that I didn't believe in promoting violence or guns and all that stuff. So yeah, that was weird. So yeah, that's a lot. It's a big ask to ask somebody to work for free and not do what they want to do.
No kidding. That kind of leads into a question I had about being a female in the business and just being like women in general. Sometimes we tend to tear each other down instead of lift each other, like in a situation like that. What can we do as women to help each other and lift each other?
Just do that. Help each other and lift each other, and not be trying to, The reason why men have been successful, that whole old boys network, that's real. They support each other. They give business to each other. They help each other out. Women tend to be in competition for the attention of men.
Bingo.
Rather than being supportive of each other to bring each other up in business together. And that's a problem. And when you have a woman like for instance, Cassandra Mills. Very powerful. She was doing very well in the business. She'd had a lot of success with Cover Me Bad. And this woman, let me tell you, who said that to me, it was about 6 feet tall, blackberry skin, most beautiful Black woman I've probably ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Braids down to her ass, like stunning, beautiful, intelligent woman. Why would she come at me with that kind of thing? Wear a black lace teddy and carry an Uzi?
Like, do you
And then
think
act
that
like somebody, why?
does that seem like something that she would sincerely think, or that she was once again in the position where, because the men will like this?
I think that the whole agenda at that time was promoting this whole thug life kind of vibe, which was clearly not where I was coming from.
I
And
never got a thug life type of feeling from you or your music.
no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. But they just, I think it was weird, nowadays, all different type of people sing R&B music, and it's widely accepted. But that was not the case in those days. So the only other white American female singer who had that kind of success on R&B radio prior to me was Tina Marie. We didn't have Christina Aguilera at that time.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what to do with me. They almost didn't put in fact, if you look at the picture on the album, you can see I'm like pretty much covered up. You can barely see my face. They weren't going to put my picture on the record at all. So they basically wanted to hide the fact that I was white, because prior to my record, okay, remember Jane Child?
Yes.
Remember Jane Child? Okay, remember that song? Who didn't love that song? Right? Well, when it came to light that she was white, she was doing really well on urban radio, or we don't call it urban radio anymore. At that time, it was called urban radio, R&B radio. So she was doing it pretty well, and her video came out, and they saw that she was white, and suddenly she wasn't going anywhere on the R&B charts. She dropped off. So they were concerned about the fact that I was white and singing R&B music. And I think they just didn't know what to do. They kind of had this, the executives of the music industry are always trying to create a formula, right? Oh, there's going to be a formula to make it happen. And there really isn't a formula. A song's either a hit or it's not a hit, right? There's no way that you can predict what's going to be a hit.
No, absolutely not.
You can't. And you can't really manufacture it. So, but they try. They think they can, and they do try.
Do you think now it's easier to just have an artist be themselves finally?
Well, I think that that's what's being promoted now. I think that now culturally, we are encouraging individuality, which is fantastic. How great is that, right? Everybody has uniqueness about them. That's the greatest thing about people, right? And so instead of trying to manufacture somebody into something, people are being encouraged to be themselves. You see, I'm a huge fan of all these music competition shows, right?
Oh, yeah.
I love The Voice. I love that thing from the moment I heard about, before I ever saw it, just the concept of it alone, being that I had so many issues with my appearance in the business. And not just being white, it was being white and curvy, both not things they wanted to deal with. So, or that they knew how to market. They didn't know how to market it, right?
Whatever, you looked hot.
Thank you.
All the guys were like, actually, I have some friends were, I was telling them that I was going to be talking to you, and they're just like, she's gorgeous.
Thank you.
So yeah, it was really cool. But
Thank
anyways,
you. But
sorry to go off. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, so I love those shows uh, American Idol and all that stuff. And one of the things that's so great is that all of these people are really being encouraged to be themselves, and everybody has unique qualities to their voice, to the way they approach music. So that is really exciting to me, just that to see the atmosphere changing around artistry
Mhm.
so that people really can be themselves, and that the audience and the fans can choose what they respond, whatever they respond to, they,
Yeah,
and mostly I think people respond to authenticity.
I think
You
so.
can spot a fake a mile away.
Look at, for instance, someone like Ed Sheeran, who has a very average look about him, and
Right.
he's just absolutely fantastic artist,
What an
right?
amazing talent. Oh Lord.
Like, I
His
don't know,
writing, his singing he's incredible.
he's refreshing, and just like you said, it's someone who's authentic and actually talented and real, and it's nice to see that things have evolved to that point, I
Well,
think.
I mean, the other thing about music, there's so many cool things about music.
Mhm.
Obviously I love music, but music is like the great connector,
Mhm.
right? It is the universal language. But the other cool thing about music is that when you are all like, if you're in a live situation and everybody is listening to that music and watching that performance, everybody is doing the same thing at the same time, right? We're all connected
Mhm.
and all feeling that vibration of whatever that music is giving you. So there's a connection feeling that you get in those live situations that you can't get anywhere else, right? That's
Mhm.
one of the things that's so difficult right now with this pandemic
Yeah.
and us not being able to commune with each other and
Mhm.
connect in that way in a large group. There's something very healing about that feeling.
Yeah.
That's why we like to go to clubs. That's why we like to go to concerts. It feels good.
Mhm.
It's uplifting. It feels good to be connected to other people. We want it. We crave it.
And
We
hear the
need it.
roar of the crowd, the excitement, the adrenaline, and everything, yeah.
Yeah. It's
We'll
it's
get
good
there.
for us.
We've gotta
We
get there.
will. We will get there. It's changing.
It reminds me
I
too.
mean, it's good. We always find a way to make it happen anyway. People do.
What's a concert you attended that changed your life or really
Hmm.
affected you? Just like really positive experience for you?
Um, it's really hard to say. I've seen some pretty amazing performances.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know who I would say was a life-changing experience. I think that when I was really young, when I was in high school, I went and saw. I was a big Sheena Easton fan.
Nice.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I went and saw her, and she blew me away. She was incredible, incredible
Mhm.
vocalist, great stage presence, and I think she was the first like diva that I saw perform.
Mhm.
Solo female artist that I saw live. So that was impactful for me.
Did it give you that drive that this is what you wanna do?
I knew I wanted to do it long before that. Yeah, I've been doing this since I was a kid. I started playing piano when I was like 4.
Yeah.
So I've been, this has been a dream of mine my whole life. I started going to acting school when I was 9. I mean, it was my lifelong dream.
Well, I've just been so happy to have this chat with you today. I'm thankful for that you connected with me, that we got to get into
I'm
contact and make this happen. So
I'm glad we were able to finally make it happen
I
too.
really appreciate your time today. And before we wrap things up, I just wanted to make sure that we plug. I'll be putting all the links out where people can find your music and
Great.
what's coming up. I'll be playing some clips in the show too. Did you have anything else you want to let everybody know about the music that's coming out, like the timeline and everything like that?
Um, we should be getting the remastered single should be coming out in the first quarter. Probably the vintage material probably be coming out in the first quarter. But I have a bunch of different things up my sleeve, and we'll see kind of how it pans out. I'm not quite sure what's going to come out or how I'm going to be putting everything out. So that's still a little bit up in the air.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure I'm going to be putting everything out as for sale. I may be putting some stuff out for free.
Nice.
So stay tuned. Please join my Instagram, and or if you're a Facebook person, join my Facebook page and stay connected. And I will be letting everyone know what's happening and when, and giving you some little teasers along the way too. So
excited. Yes.
yeah, thank you.